Sam Shaw here, founder of Wall Street Mastermind. Excited to be back today with another client interview for you guys. And today, really excited to have Pranav on with us. And Pranav is, yeah, actually someone that we've been working with for over a year now. I think since late 2022. And he was able to recently successfully lateral into investment banking. And so, I was really excited to bring him on because I know that we actually come across quite a few, I guess, candidates who want to lateral into investment banking from maybe another industry that they're already working in. Maybe they've been graduated for a year, 2 years, sometimes even 3 years out of school. And there's not a lot of resources or materials out there that really talk about at least like this lateral process as opposed to like I feel like there's a lot of information on like recruiting as an undergrad, for example. And so like there's some differences in terms of how the entire process works. And so want to get Pranav to come on here and just kind of talk to you guys about his own experience, his journey, how he was able to ultimately successfully land an offer. And so, Pranav, thank you for taking the time to be here with us today, man. And
But no worries. Thanks for having me.
yeah, of course. And if you don't mind, maybe start things off by just kind of introducing yourself a little bit. Tell us kind of like, what's your story like? What's your background? How did this start? Like, where were you trying to, where were you coming from, and where did you end up going?
Yeah, no. So I did my undergrad at Texas A&M, and initially I went into college thinking I was going to go to medical school, as many people from my background do. And based like maybe like three-fourths, like during my junior years, when I realized it was not at all what I liked, like wasn't what I thought it was. It was just wasn't what I was interested in at that point. Like I would basically, since I was like a little kid, that's all I wanted to do. So I knew literally nothing about any other career. Like I pivoted to like, oh, maybe I could go to law school. I was all over the place. And then on top of that, I graduated into COVID. So like that just,
Hmm.
threw another fork into all these things. And at that point, I still had no clue what exactly I wanted to do. And like I finished my degree like in like bio and public health, which since I didn't want to work, go to medical school, that degree to, lack of better words was kind of useless, right? In terms of like immediate jobs and type of stuff. So I got a job within like it was a mix of like business development and sales. So luckily, I had pretty good people skills. So I was able to interview myself there, but it just wasn't really what I like. It was just kind of a job there, and just during COVID, I was able to live in Austin, which a place I really enjoyed. And I did a bunch of networking. I knew I want like I knew I kind of wanted to go in the business field. I just wasn't exactly sure. Well, I was still learning about all these different careers. Like I heard about consulting, didn't know what the heck it was. I heard about financial analysts, all these different things. I always had an interest in M&A, and so I networked with a lot of bankers, a lot of different types of roles, and investment banking definitely seemed like something I was very interested in, which has led me to doing my master's of science in finance.
Hmm.
And it was just a 1 year program, so it was kind of meant for people like me. I did my master's at the University of Texas, so still in Texas, nearby where I went to undergrad. So that was all pretty smooth. But the thing was, like, it was a 1 year program, so when a lot of these banks are recruiting, especially out of these programs, which by the way isn't a ton compared to undergrad, because they want you to do an internship and then come back. I just don't. It's a 1 year program. I don't have that opportunity. A lot of them are recruiting right when the program starts. So I was literally learning for the first time the basics of accounting, and all these banks are like, kind of neck deep with recruiting and stuff. So it was just also super late there. So I was very lucky to get an offer within valuations at Deloitte. I picked that role mostly because I still wanted to do banking, and it was somewhat similar, kind of like as close as it gets without actually doing it. And I was there for a little over a year, and yeah, kind of an opportunity kind of popped up. I got really lucky, honestly. Just the market's really terrible right now but within that time, I reached out to you. I knew about your program a lot, but uh, it wasn't until then that I really kind of went in with it. So I was a little all
Hmm.
over the place with that.
Gotcha. Okay. So coming out of the Masters in Finance program, you first went into valuation.
Yeah.
Okay, and then you did that for how long how long, a little over a year, you said, right?
Just over your 13 months, yeah.
Okay. And then so you started working with us right around when you started the valuation role, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. So basically like you went into the valuation role, um, kind of already knowing that you were just going to use it as like a almost like a stepping stone to your ultimate goal of investment banking.
That was the goal. Obviously, like I was also very realistic. I knew people with my background exactly the highest, priority list. Like I'd apply to jobs and basically I had coffee chats like everyone does. And
Yeah.
like almost a lot of them, the first call, they'd be like, just we'll be straight up with you. We're looking for, recent, undergrads, all that stuff. And also, but that was the goal. I was still, I'm pretty the
Yeah.
persistent guy. So, I was still, sticking at it. But yeah.
Yeah. I think like one main call out that I want to kind of give people who are listening to this or maybe interested in lateraling themselves is that like we've worked with whether it's yourself or there's been like a bunch of other students in Wall Street Mastermind that have lateraled from another industry into investment banking after being recently graduated. But I would say like the commonality between all the people who are able to lateral successfully is that they have to lateral from like an industry that's at least somewhat relevant to
Yeah.
banking, or like the work that you're doing has to be still like a somewhat relevant skill set, right? So like for example, you talked about going into valuation. Obviously, valuation is a very core part of what you have to do as an investment banker because
Mm,
you're constantly valuing these businesses and how much they should be worth like on a day in day out basis. And so like that's a very relevant field, right? And I would say like other relevant fields that you could potentially consider, like some people start in corporate banking, some people start in
mm,
equity research, some people start in like pretty much any type of even corporate development. We have people lateraling from corporate development. We've had people lateraling from FP&A, which I would say is like
mm.
less relevant, but like okay, still finance, right? I think we have people lateraling from audit, but like my point is, it's going to be very hard if you're like, oh, I'm working in marketing and I want to lateral into banking, or I'm doing sales and I want to lateral into banking. Like that would probably require you to like go to business school, right? But like if you're already working in finance, but just not necessarily in investment banking, then I think it is possible to maybe not go to business school and lateral directly into investment banking. So that's something to keep in
Mm.
mind. Like for people that maybe realize they want to do investment banking too late in the process, and they didn't have an opportunity to get in as an undergrad. Sometimes it's okay to first just try to get into like the best thing or like the closest thing you can get into, and then kind of keep working at it until you finally break it, right? um okay, so I guess people are probably wondering, so like what was the offer that you got, and like, and also can you talk a little bit about like how it felt when you finally did get the offer?
Yeah, so I was like there's like I said, there's a lot of things working against me, and also I was on top of that, like a lot of my family's from Southern California, so if possible, I really really wanted to stay in Southern California, um like in Los Angeles area. As opposed, I know like New York has all the opportunities, and same with SF and more, but like so on like so that made things even harder for me, but
Mm,
so, but and I was always really interested in entertainment and media. That being said, I was super grateful. Just I was at that point I was willing to do anything, but like I did have a strong preference for that. So yeah, no, I was constantly networking. There was a boutique entertainment media focused bank that's based here in Santa Monica. So literally, kind of would have been perfect. It's called Salem Partners, and space right here. And so it was kind of as perfect of an opportunity as it could have been. Like I wouldn't have to drop everything and move. I wouldn't and like leave like go to move into a completely new place, all those things. So like that was very, very like optimized opportunity. So the interview process is pretty crazy, as everyone knows in banking. But yeah, when I finally got that offer, all those things, yeah, it felt validated. I don't know, it was like I just sat back like because I still look back, when I was my first networking call, I reached out to someone, me like all the different emails I sent with no response, like especially like and all the responses like, oh yeah, we're looking for people who are undergrads, all those different situations. Like there was so many times I was like, this isn't gonna happen, but like, like I was I hadn't really thought too far past it. So it was really, really like it's pretty hard to explain. Like obviously now I was not ready to get to work. Like it was more obviously there was a relief, but it was also a sense of determination because I'm a like I said, I'm a very persistent guy, and like seeing all those like rejection stuff, like it was kind of like I'm gonna prove this people wrong. Like now I got the opportunity, this was going to work, because I knew how bad I wanted this, and just getting in, and one, let alone one that's still in Southern California that has a focus on the entertainment and media industry. Like I
yeah.
just think like I'm just gonna be able to learn so much, and I'm just was just ready to work basically.
Yeah. That's amazing, man. I mean, look, like, typically the harder you have to work to get something, like the better it feels when you actually do get it, right?
Yeah.
And investment banking is extremely competitive, but not only that, like if you aren't recruiting as like an undergrad who's still in school or as an MBA who's still in school, then you also don't have that structured
Yeah.
recruiting process that you can or pipeline that you can just go through. And so it really
Mhm.
does come down to like a lot of networking that you have to do to like go out and uncover these opportunities. And the expectation is that, when you're going through that networking process, you are going to get a lot of no's, right? Like you're going to get way more no's than yeses. And I think that like a lot of times it just comes down to having the right expectations because I think most people, I don't know how many, like, I mean, how many people would you say you try to reach out to for networking, like throughout this entire past year
Uh,
plus?
I've lost count, like honestly, like
Yeah.
hundreds.
Yeah, like
Um,
hundreds, like minimum,
yeah,
right?
probably more, maybe even thousands. Like honestly, collectively. So yeah,
Yeah. And like probably the majority of those people tell you, oh, we're not hiring right now, or oh, we already filled our class, or oh, we only hire
yeah,
grads or whatever. Right. And it's like, but literally that's the mentality you have to have is like leaving no stones unturned until
mm,
and really all you need is like one, you just need one offer. Right.
yeah,
And in your instance, it sounds like the firm that you happen to find is also checked a lot of the boxes for you because not only
yeah,
what's in banking, but geographically, it allows you to stay close to your family and industry coverage wise, they
yeah,
cover, they're in LA, so they cover an industry that you're actually interested in.
mm,
Looking at their website, they've actually got a pretty decently sized team.
hmm. That
Which
was
that's always a good sign too. Is like you look at the size of the team, especially with a lot of these smaller boutique banks, like there's some correlation to how big the team is and how much deal flow they have, right?
yeah.
So that's awesome, man. I'm super happy for you.
I
I
appreciate it.
guess so. Prior to let's talk about like the process of actually like preparing and getting this job done because obviously you already knew you wanted to do investment banking
Mhm.
prior to coming to Wall Street Mastermind. Like, were you already kind of doing a bunch of prep on your own, or a bunch of networking, or I don't know, interview prep, or anything dedicated to getting a job in banking, or like? Was coming to Wall Street Mastermind kind of like the first time when you kind of like seriously started prepping?
No, I was like doing things for sure. But like networking wise, I was always pretty solid at that. But like that's like part of the only part of the battle, right? Like when it came to like the technicals, like obviously everyone tells you, oh, like the 400 questions guy, which obviously like I looked at, but like when I first looked at it, like I barely had any finance, like my background was in like science, right? So like just trying to memorize answers, trying to like do it, like that just doesn't work. Like, let me sure
Mm,
like it could work like for some of the questions, but like just generally like it was just kind of all over the place and um like while I was like obviously I learned a good amount through a master's program, but like it's still kind of all over the place. Like when it I was also trying to find a job, like all that stuff too. So what this was like more of it like, I need to take everything to the next level. Like I already have very few opportunities afforded to me, like in terms of like, you know, at that stage of my life, like no one's really like looking like you mentioned candidates that are, you know, they want undergrad to do internship come in. So like I really had to do everything as perfect as possible that was in my control. So I talked to a handful of people like who've done your program as well as you and some other people, and you were very straight up with me about like how you approach things, and it was definitely something I was interested in. And I just mostly the technical models, and that put made everything make so much more sense. The way like the videos, I study much better when I get to like see a video explaining it, and like if I wanted something explained better, like pause it, like reverse rewind, watch it again, like all those things that you have of every single possible topic, and then you have those mock interviews that you can just quiz yourself with. Like it made everything very like it's a lot of information, but you slowed it down pretty well for anyone. Like even if someone's never taken a finance class,
mm,
taken an accounting class, you could take that and be like thousands of times more prepared. So that was huge for me.
mm. Gotcha. Okay. So basically, you were coming in. It sounds like you did try a little bit on your own, but you quickly realized that hey, given your background is not in finance and you don't know anything about finance, like just using these 400 question guide or whatever same resources that everyone else is
Mhm.
using wasn't really effective for you. And rather than like self-studying or self-teaching, you want someone else to actually teach the stuff to you. And then I think the other mentality that you have, which I think was very, very smart actually, is that you knew that coming in as a lateral candidate, that you were going to have way fewer opportunities
Yeah,
than someone who's maybe still in school and going through the regular recruiting pipeline. And so you wanted to just make sure that you control what you could control, which is
yeah.
if an opportunity did come along, you want to knock it out of the park and you don't want to leave anything up to chance, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I like one. It was always stressful because you never know if you're gonna get a chance. But like, yeah, like you only get a few chances. You gotta like really go at it when you get it. And also like when it comes to lateral people, like they kind of hire mostly as needed, right? Some situations, right? So like that's even less than normal. And also sometimes people are lateraling from investment banking to another bank, right? So like as someone like that automatically puts you at a disadvantage for them too. So I knew like like I was very upfront with myself. I knew exactly like that this would be tough. This is gonna be like there's no absolute zero guarantees. I mean that's for everyone in banking, but like going into banking, but like even less so for me, So
Yeah.
but like I was it was a pretty long term decision for me. Like when I chose my Deloitte job, like there were other jobs that paid more, like strategy management consulting at like bigger firms, all those types of things, other types of roles. But like that would have not necessarily disqualified me, but like the role was just way different than what banking would require. So
Mm.
like this is a pretty long like a commitment that like I had to sacrifice some things, quote unquote. But like when I was ready for it and I wanted it, so
I mean, it sounds to me like you were just like super committed to breaking into banking no matter what. Like you set that as your goal and then you were just like, I'm gonna do everything I can to make it happen. Whether that's like joining Wall Street Mastermind to get the help you needed with the technical interviews, or even like taking a job that maybe requires some near-term sacrifices, but would set you up better for the long term in terms of
yeah.
lateraling in, to networking with, hundreds, if not thousands of bankers, and taking all the rejections on the chin and just continuing to keep going. Like all of these things, I feel like the common thread here is like, unless someone is like an 11 out of 10 on wanting to do this, they're just not going to go through all the things that you
Mhm.
have to go through to make that happen.
No, most definitely. Like even like some of my friends who were like associates of like pretty good banks, like as like really good friends like that, like could vouch for me as much as like I would vouch for myself. Like a lot of them straight up like, oh yeah, we're looking for like it's got to be like what is like the undergrad, you got to do the internship or like yeah, looking for whatever experience, and like even people who could really actually vouch for me more like as friends more than just like a random LinkedIn connection, and still was like same thing. So like yeah, I there's no other choice because and these move fast, right? Like there's other people who like just like me. I don't consider myself super special, right? Like I was someone to grind, but I know there's other people out there like me. So like, you have to really, yeah, for sure. There's no way around it. Not just for me, for anyone trying to go into banking. So
So how many firms did you interview with throughout this process? Like,
I got so when I was actually in my master's, I got one interview early on, very early on. The problem with that, like, I was able to grind myself interview. That one, I just straight up, I wasn't technically ready, and that's when I really realized, like, oh, like I thought I was pretty technically ready. Like I did, I studied the 400 questions, and like I had some knowledge from my master's, but like I was kind of just memorizing it. So I was just trying to get the information in me, and like, and then like the 400 questions is a good guide, it's a good starting point, but like these banks can ask you whatever they want, right? And things switch up even a little bit, right? And I was like, oh my god, like that wasn't on the guide. That wasn't like you can't memorize, like they didn't ask me the depreciation the exact same number. It wasn't like all those things change. I'm like, yeah, no, I don't. I was pretty humbled, honestly, right? I got a super day, so like did pretty well, but I was like, I was very humbled. And there's like a start like a difference between getting the offer and like the guys who maybe made the super day. Like there's a pretty big difference, right? Like
mm,
making that jump, it's a pretty big one. So like, and you need every little extra second of preparation or whatever it may be. And there's that. But honestly, I only really had after that. This was my first interview. No, since then with Salem, and um, very grateful I got it. I was because things played like they weren't hiring much in general, like banking in general. The market's pretty terrible. Everyone can say that, look at and say that. So, um, yeah, I was very lucky that kind of all worked out. So,
How did you come across this opportunity? Just
so
through,
initially,
yeah. No, go ahead.
it was initially like I saw on LinkedIn like a couple months ago. I send an email, and I sent an app on LinkedIn, but like there's so many apps on LinkedIn, just go there, right? And like I reached out to some of the people who worked at the firm and didn't really hear anything. And like a month later, one of them actually reached back. One of the people had emailed reached back out to me, said they're a little late, but they're still looking to fill the analyst role. And I was like, yeah, like I remember I was on a flight when I saw the email getting on when I immediately responded. I'm like, yeah, let's like we can connect whenever. And then there was a series of calls there, and then there's series of like other interviews, and there's like I think ran to like 10 different interviews I had to go through.
Wow.
But I was as ready as I ever was, and like this was in person too. So like even like I'll like the front like up front, like the other interview I had was like super, like those were online, like and I had like technically little bullet points put up for you, like and so you can technically prepare yourself a little more. But like this in person, like even though I was there, I had no resources for me besides like just however ready you were, was as prepared as I've ever been for any interview in my life. And like this was actually, now that I think about it, that was my first interview in person because I graduated into COVID. So it was yeah.
I mean, my takeaway from hearing what you just said is, even though you had a pretty long, I had a pretty long layoff from like that first interview you had when you kind of like towards the beginning of your MSF to
Mhm.
this interview, like you stayed ready though, because a lot of times like these opportunities they come up and then you have to kind of go in and interview right away, and then like if you've not been studying or haven't been prepping or whatever, uh, you could just get caught off guard and then just drop the ball and mess it up, and then the opportunity is gone, right? Um,
Yeah.
but it sounds like you said you were more prepared than you ever were, and so like you basically were still staying ready, still staying sharp, and just waiting for the opportunity coming. And when it did come, you were able to knock it out of the park. It sounds like.
Yeah, 100%. Like that's, and it definitely, like I'll admit, like it's not for everyone. Like sometimes it sucks. Like you're doing all this preparation, knowing like there's a good chance you're just wasting your time, right? Like you may not ever get an opportunity, and like those are like basically any extra time I got at work, like I just sometimes spend extra time studying, right? And like no, it kind of like sucks sometimes. Like maybe I wanted to go like hang out with my friends or stuff, but like, and this may have all been the waste, right? Like I remember I was telling my friends, yeah, I got to go study. Like you have an interview, I'm like, man, I was just like, I just want to stay ready. Like, and
Wow.
like, yeah, like now sometimes like since we're like an interview now, like sometimes I relive it now, and like it's kind of like wow, it's kind of crazy how far things have come. Because in the moment you don't really realize, because like I said, this is something I really wanted, I was grinding for. And like even though I got like Deloitte's a phenomenal firm, right? And like they have all benefits and they have opportunities for growth and stuff, but even that with that, like I kind of went in knowing like I don't want to be here super long. It's a pretty bad mentality that I guess to have, but like you don't want to always just keep looking for it, but like it's what I wanted to do. So
I mean, yeah, you knew what you wanted, so I don't think there's anything wrong
yeah.
with that. But man, like doing what you did, making those sacrifices without knowing whether there's actually gonna be a point to it or not, I think that requires a tremendous amount of discipline. So I think like
Hmm.
major props to you for doing that. I honestly don't think most people could do that. Like your friends asking you to go out, whatever. It's like, oh, okay, like, what the heck? It's not like I have an interview coming up anyway. Like it's easier to just go out, right? And so
No, for sure.
um, so that's amazing that you were able to do that. You mentioned that you went through 10 interviews. It's a lot
Yeah,
to do
it's
with
a
one
lot.
firm. What was that like? Like, were there any questions that stood out to you or caught you off guard, or like, were you able to just answer everything smoothly, or walk us kind of through that experience?
Yeah, so obviously some of the interviews were like they were just strictly like behavioral type ones. There's like the ones with the higher up people, like it was pretty cool. Like founder of the firm sat down and interviewed me, which I found really, really cool, right? Which I meant this hire really mattered. Like they really care about bringing these some of these smaller firms. Like that's kind of how it is. But when it came to the technical aspect, like obviously I was a little nervous, right? Because you don't want to sound like an idiot. But honestly, I was ready. Like, and even though like some of them I didn't know I mean, I don't remember off the top of my head, but like I didn't know the exact answer to. Like, I felt like I had enough requisite knowledge, like adjacent to the question, that like I can talk more about that and still like get to the answer. Like, and they'll like sometimes work, if you can like they're just like critique like crazy, like if you sound like you know what you're talking about, and I made sure that was the case, right? Like everything I knew the general idea of. And so it was pretty smooth though for the most part. Like there's maybe one that kind of like tripped me up, but I was ready, and straight up, like I will like another shout out, those videos really, really do a good job because you go way more in depth than you probably like um and these questions usually will, which is what needs to be done. You'd rather be over prepared than under prepared. And like the way the modules, like, okay, this one's strictly about accounting, this one's strictly about valuation, kind of dedicate all that time to just fully grasping it. That really like, help them to, because when you separate that, when I got a question about valuation, my mind just goes straight up that valuation video, right? Kind of separate the chunks into the little things, which made it easier because there's a lot of knowledge like there's so many different things, but like separating out like accounting, valuation, M&A specifically, or whatever the case is, just really allowed me to like um really put it all together. So it's
You, you
very
actually,
helpful.
you actually, you actually kind of started answering like the next question I was going to ask, which is like, obviously, I know you did your technical prep with, our technical curriculum and modules and things like that. Like prior to that, obviously you try using 400 questions guide and some of the other resources outside of Wall Street Mastermind on your own. Like, what would you say is the biggest difference in terms of like how we teach these concepts that seems to have made it click for you when initially it didn't click for you?
Yeah, no. So one thing, like, so obviously, like memorizing is just not going to work in general for a lot of things, right? Some things may, but like here, it's like one thing. I guess depends on the type of learning you're, but like I really learn well with like these types of like videos. You can pause, go back, and all those things. I also really like how like basically after every single topic you discuss, like give an example, right? Like a second to like redo, right? Like I'll admit, like when I was in even my master's program, like a lot of the things, like it's a very fast paced one. A lot of these people in my master's program were undergrads in finance or like undergrads in economics or had some sort of tech. I literally was not like, I remember like doing some of the intro stuff. These are like sleeping in class, and I was struggling to write like these basic things for everyone. I was going so quick. Like it was literally like it was going really, really quick for me. On top of it, to go straight into homework assignments, exams, and that's the thing with these accelerated master's programs. On top of that, you got to recruit, right? Which is the whole point of this program, is to get a job. So like it was going so fast for me, and like I mean, I'm not here to complain. Like I'm just just got to kind of suck it up. So this was like I was able to kind of like slow things down, really understand it, and like rather than just like okay trying to memorize, I was like you were giving good applications of examples. I can kind of put it together, and like and then on top of that, you give like this, you have the, after each section, you had like a mock interview where you had to like, you can be honest with yourself, like how far you are, right? And like, how much do you actually know? And all those things really like made it easier to like, just kind of like focus on each section, truly understand, but like it's and bits of it. And like, so it's just like, if you got a question that wasn't on the 400, like you can answer, you actually know the concept of it, and
Mm.
it's truly so much better because like before, like I was, like the way on the 400 questions, they'll say like the 3 items, like give me items from the financial statements. You just kind of listed before, just memorizing. Okay, like I was putting acronyms for each one. Like I was watching the video, you just kind of went down explaining the entire statement rather than explain the different things. You're like just listing them out. You like started from the top, explained each thing. I'm like, okay, I'm able to go with this because like I was a rookie. Like I'm a master's in finance student, but like I'm learning what a credit and debit is, like within these accounting terms for the first time. So like
Yeah.
it was nice that like I was able to kind of just see it all out, and made it so much easier. Like I can't even like emphasize that.
Yeah, it sounds like what really helped you was the fact that one, it was very comprehensive, it covered everything you needed to know. Two, it was very like structured and organized, and you knew like, hey, these are the topics, and then like within each topic there's subtopics and things like that. And then like three, rather than like forcing you to memorize a bunch of formulas or memorize a bunch of answers, where we don't do any of that. It's actually just about like teaching you the concepts behind the questions, because we know that the interviewers are going to change the questions. Like you're not going to get the exact questions.
Hmm.
You're not going to get the exact questions that are already in the 400 questions guide, because your interviewers know what questions are in those guides.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
and so you have to learn and we tell people this all the time, which is like the way to really know if you actually are ready is to see if you can like turn around and teach it to someone else.
Exactly.
You
Yeah.
can't teach it to someone else. Like if you're just memorizing answers, you can't teach it to someone else.
Yeah, it's
Then that's how you know you're not ready. And so like, so that's kind of our goal when we teach our students technicals is like, how do we get you to the point where you can actually turn around and teach it to someone else? Because essentially that's what you're going to be asked to do in an interview is like explain or teach these concepts to your interviewers, right? Like that's what these technical questions are. Um, and so that's kind of I think like the biggest difference in terms of our approach and our methodology. But
no
um,
100%.
yeah, glad to see that you know that it really made a big difference for you though. So I would say like I know we're short on time here. I want to make sure you know I ask you this last question, which is you know now that you've come out the other side of this process, you know for our audience that's you know watching or listening to this who maybe are in a similar situation like you, maybe they are working in another industry right now, but their goal is to break into banking and they want to lateral in. Um, what's like your best piece of advice that you have for people who are, you know, kind of in your like you were in their shoes not that long ago? Like, what's your best piece of advice that you can give them? Maybe something that you just learned or picked up along the way and that really made a big difference for you. Is there anything like that that you can kind of share with people?
Yeah, I'm like obviously I feel if anyone's like trying to go in the banking, like they obviously know like what comes with it, like me, like the hours, all the hard work it takes to like, get into like it's another way to look at it, like, obviously how much of a grind it is in the actual job. Like that's why I felt I had no issues grinding that hard just to get it because that's just kind of the mentality you're gonna have to do to succeed in the job period. Right. So like why not put the same effort to actually get the job? Like you gotta be consistent, you gotta keep, you gotta stay ready. I'm a huge sports guy, right? Like, I see like, oftentimes they say that, guys who are not like on the bench, right, or looking for opportunity, guys might get hurt, right? You're never knowing your opportunity might come up or you got to always stay ready. It's as simple as that. And like, there's a lot, like, don't be afraid to ask questions. The one thing I really appreciated was like, it was obviously like there was you, but also like you had other people like who've used the program before who like are there to answer any questions you may have, which trust me, I had a lot, like so many, right? Because I just was learning all this kind of on my own. Like I was literally kind of like learning on the go everything. And so just not being afraid to ask questions, you just gotta like I know it sounds stupid to say, but you just gotta keep grinding and keep understanding why you're doing it because there's so many times I could have quit, but like every time I talked about my career, like it always went back to me like how bad I want to get in, how like what I know it could do, my future like aspirations, what I want to accomplish, and just really sticking to that because there are times when it gets blue. There's times you're like, what am I doing? Like it's been a year here. Like I've been here for Deloitte. Like nothing's changed. Like I feel like I'm like I'd submit these apps, nothing's happened. Like there's been no traction. I thought this job would help me get closer. Like there's so many times it's going like that. So you just gotta stay confident, stay ready because like even in a terrible market and like like you want in a market that's like a city that's not as big in banking as some other ones, right? Like opportunities will come. You never know when or with who. Just be open minded. Like I wasn't going just like, oh, I got to be Goldman. It's got to be J.P. Morgan. Like oh, those are nice, obviously, right? But like there's every bank. There's so many opportunities to learn all across the place. And if they're hiring, it generally means like they're a growing place, right? So um,
Yeah, and I mean, like when it comes to lateraling, like you know, the Goldmans of the world, like a lot of times they're if they looking for lateral hires, they're looking to hire from people that already
exactly.
have worked in banking. But
Yeah,
like that's not to say that you'll never end up there. It's just like you got to get your foot in the door first, working in banking,
absolutely.
and then from there anything can happen, right? And so like you know there's steps to the process, but I think you're absolutely right though is that I mean the one thing that really stands out about you is that you talked about like knowing why you're understanding why you're doing it. I think like
100%.
you had a very clear vision on why you were doing this, which is probably why you were able to make the sacrifices you made and be as disciplined as you were and you were just like you know dead set on making this happen no matter what, right? And I think that for anyone else that's you know considering lateral into investment banking, you need to have that level of determination, or else it's kind of like don't even bother, right? But at the same time, you know, for people that are having doubts about, oh, like, can I really do this? Like, is it really possible? It's like, well, if you think about it, you know, someone like Pranav who, you know, graduated during COVID, it was a horrible job market, like nobody was hiring, and you know, he's recruiting in a city that you know isn't really like a New York or a SF where there's a ton of financial services jobs available. Like, there were a lot of things that were where you could say the odds were stacked against him, and
Yeah.
despite all of that, he was still able to break in, right? And so it's like, if he could do it, like, why wouldn't you be able to? The only difference would be, maybe you aren't as committed as he is, or you
Mhm.
aren't maybe you aren't willing to make the sacrifices that he made, or you aren't as disciplined as he was, right? And so I think, yeah, like, for anyone out there, like, I think this is great advice for them. But like, basically, it's not going to be easy. You should expect it to be hard. But I think if it's if it's important enough to you, then there's not anything that can't be overcome, right? Um, as long as you're willing to put in the work. So
100%. I agree. It's got to be also very, you got to be humble, like humble with yourself, like, and you got to like, be like eager and hungry to learn because like I said, like some people like would say, oh, I only want to go for the top banks. So like, like I was very well, like I was my biggest critic. Like I knew what was afforded to me, right? Obviously things could happen, it's just miracles, right? But like I knew like I wanted to get my foot in the door. Like, I'll be like, not gonna like list any names, but like really early on, like I've only been there for a little over a month. Like I've already been reached out by multiple recruiters within private equity. Like obviously I have no intention of leaving. I just got in, but like it's kind of cool seeing that. Like, you work hard to get here and like, people value like, understand like value what this career is, how you can learn and stuff. And it is pretty cool to see that early on. Like obviously I have no intention of leaving. I'm just here to grind and learn. But it is cool to see that, so
yeah, absolutely, man. Awesome, dude. This is really, really great advice. So, guys, for those of you who are maybe in a similar situation where you're considering lateraling into banking, you're a few years out of school, you're working in a field that's, somewhat related to banking, but not, not quite banking, or other areas of finance. If that fits your description, and you're not really sure how to go about it, or how difficult it's going to be, and you want to just kind of have all the help you can possibly get, in your corner, and maximize your chances. And maybe you've been struggling to learn the technical concepts on your own, and you need someone to teach it to you, right? Or maybe it's something else. Maybe you're struggling with networking. Maybe you're struggling with some other aspect of your interviews. If that's you, like, feel free to reach out to our team, right? And you can do that very easily just by going to www.wallstreetmastermind.com/apply. Just like Pranav talked to us before, he decided whether this was the right program for him. We encourage you guys to have a conversation with us so that we can learn more about your situation, give you some advice on what we think, how we think we would approach it if we were to try to help you break in. And then, like, regardless of whether you actually end up working with us or not, you can either take the advice that we give you and go and try to run with it on your own, or if you really want our help, we could talk about what that might look like, right? And so, if you guys want to do that, go to www.wallstreetmastermind.com/apply. And the street's abbreviated to ST, so it's wallstmastermind.com/apply. And we look forward to talking to you guys. All right. So with that said, Pranav, I want to thank you again for taking the time today to just share your story with us. I think it's very inspiring for all the people out there that are trying to do the same things, and maybe having some difficulties on their own. But like, I always say, like, it's until someone ran a 4 minute mile, like, for the longest time no one could break the 4 minute mile, right? But like, once, like, the first person broke the 4 minute mile, then like a bunch of people started breaking the 4 minute mile. And that's kind of like how human beings work. Is like, if we see that someone else is able to do it, a lot of times that's enough to give us the belief that we can do it as well. And so that's why I appreciate you for coming on and sharing your story with everybody else. So
no, 100%. Thanks for having me. Like I 100%, like I'm pretty confident I wouldn't be like have gotten here without y'all's assistance. So I was, wanted to make sure any way I can give back to someone else, I would, because I wouldn't be able to help the people who got me here. So
and we're very grateful for you, and for you doing that. And we're very appreciative of all of our clients that are willing to come back and share their stories. So look forward to seeing all the success that you have ahead of you, man. And whether it's at Salem or honestly for the rest of your career, like, I'm sure you're going to go on to do big things. So let's definitely stay in touch. And if there's anything else that we can ever help you with, like, don't be a stranger. And definitely, I mean, you know how to reach us. So
100%. Thanks, man.
awesome. All right, guys, we're gonna wrap it up here. So we really enjoyed this one today, and we're gonna try to come back with more of these for you guys in the near future. But until next time, and talk soon. All right.